Hi and welcome to this video and welcome to Game Creation. So this is our final video of this kind of mini project to get the player movement, the custom player movement sorted. And in today's video we're going to address two big issues with our movement that I think are game breaking, that we can't release it as it is. So minimum viable product, it's currently below that. And they are obviously that you can change directions mid-movement, so we've got to sort that out. And if you hold down the right key, it kind of stops, and we need to address that. In fact, those two things we can really address in the same way, and it just tidies us up. And we introduce the flags, which I alluded to in a previous video, but now we're actually going to use them for a purpose, so you can see why flags are absolutely brilliant. And in programming languages, they're called booleans normally, and in Clickteam Fusion, because I think flags is more universal. I don't know, it's more visual that you can see the flags up or down or something. I have no idea, but I hope you enjoy this video. Let's go to the screen. Okay, so in the last video we created some pretty amazing movement, so you can go right and up and down. And remember, our target was to always keep the player within the grid. That's not true for modern RPGs, but I think that for this series it's going to be a lot more convenient to talk about custom collisions and stuff, and actually it's still RPG-like. There's a couple of issues that we're addressing in this video, and they kind of mop up issues that really don't make this deliverable. If I click left and then up, it goes out of sync there, which is not desirable at all. The other thing is that if I hold down the right, it stops. That's it. And really, as you know, with RPGs, you want to be able to quickly go from the house here to the fight over here, and you don't want to sit there having to keep pressing right the whole time. So those two things are actually surprisingly easy to address, and we kind of just lump them together because I'm just going to double click on that and go to the event editor, because actually it's all about setting up a different storage thing for the player icon, and this is one that I always put into my custom movements. So if I go to the frame editor, actually click on that, and I've talked about before about, I can never find this one. It's this one here. I'm gonna have to learn that. A to Z. That's a really good icon to have for it. I'm so used to just clicking through these to find the ones I'm looking for, and I think that's on me. I've got to actually look at the little icons, because obviously the little guy moving is movement and etc, and positions there, and yeah, they've done a good job with the icons. It's just I'm not very observant. Anyway, so we're going to introduce a flag, and this flag is just going to be called moving. And there are some keywords. I think I got into a keyword in the previous video that Clickteam reserves. So no, sorry, we're having that one, because there's things stored about the X position of the player and all that stuff. There's things stored in there already under different words. So Clickteam actually uses alterable values itself, which is actually quite interesting. I'm just going to call it moving. And if it's moving, that flag is going to switch on. If it's not moving, that flag's going to switch off. And I think this is something that's changed for 2.5 plus. So if yours looks a bit different, don't worry, it does the same thing. It's just a nice little check mark here. I think that's changed, but you'll probably say in the comments it hasn't. It's been like that for years. I normally do these kind of programmatically. I don't normally have flags switched on at the start, so I don't really notice it so much. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the event editor. Now, what we need to do is decide that the player is moving. So if they click the right arrow, they are moving. So we want to click the flag and set it on, and the moving one. And remember what I said in the last video, if I double click there and I click set moving on, press Ctrl and C, go back to the event editor, I can just paste it in there. Just click on it and then Ctrl V, and it just pastes it in there. So it doesn't change any of the other events or any of the other actions, sorry. It keeps them the same, still going up there. It just adds it onto the end. It's such a lifesaver because I hate clicking right and all that stuff. So you want to try and make it more efficient if you can. Okay, the next thing is we need to figure out, well, when does moving stop? So we know when it starts is any of these events. when does it stop? Well, it stops when this happens. So this event, this event, this event, this event. That's it stopping. So we want to right click on that and end flags and set off, and then moving. Double click on that. Control and C. Go to event editor and just paste those in there. Okay, that's brilliant. Just check them that are all done. Okay, so we now know when it's moving, so we can now have something to kind of go, oh, actually I don't want it to do whatever it is that you wanted to do if it's moving. So what I want to do is right click here and insert, and I want to check whether it's moving already, and if it's not moving I want it to not move. And so is a flag off? So if it's off, then you're safe to move. Moving. And I'm just going to drag that into here, drag that into here, drag that into here. If you drag it into the left hand side, it doesn't replace what's there, it adds to it. So if I press Ctrl and Z to undo, if I was to drag it into here, it would replace it, which is not what I wanted. Drag it into the left, it just adds it on. And we'll change that in a second, because for obvious reasons, because I think you know that that's not the best way of doing things. Although I'm not quite sure whether it will work, but we'll see. Okay, and that's it. So if I click run now, and if I press right and then up will not work until it's finished. So if I just mash the keys, mash, 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 nope, it's not out of sync at all. It does it perfectly. But if I hold left down, it's still not working. And actually, that's very simple. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to replace that. So this says upon pressing right arrow. That means it will fire once. We don't want it to fire once. We want it to keep firing. What I mean by firing is keep doing this as long as this is pressed down. And the way of doing that is just keyboard repeat while key is pressed. So instead of that one, you do that one, then right. And I want to replace them this time, so I'm going to click and drag that to replace that. Double click, left arrow, replace that. Double click, up arrow, replace that. Double click, down arrow. Okay, let's run that. And I'm going to hold down right now. Perfect. Down, perfect. Left, up, and you can mash the keys. And that works perfectly. A little bit of maybe housekeeping, I think it's called, is I want to insert a parent element, and I want to insert the fact that that flag is off. Flag is off. And then what I'm going to do is just remove these and put these in here, because there might be some other conditions that crop up. Not just moving, but it could be actually I don't want the player to be moving if they're in a dialogue sequence, so they're talking to a villager or something, and so it means instead of having to update each of these, is villager talking, blah blah blah, we just got one place for it. And there's other ways of doing it as well, and to create loops with, there's all sorts of complicated things. We don't need to worry about that just yet. We've now got a nice simple code here where this here is a monstrosity. I don't like this, but this will be mopped up later on when we start thinking about grids and thinking about a much more clever way of doing it. And don't forget, if it's looking unyieldy, just double click, done. It's nice and simple. It's all gone. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you want to see more from us, please click subscribe. We release videos every single weekday at 7 PM UK time. Thank you.